It is early in the morning, and old Mr. Wu Meishi is telling the history of the Peitian village to children who are on summer vacation.
Good morning, students. Peitian is a village with a long and ancient history that spans 800 years, and their first ancestor was Wu Bessa. In the third generation of his clan, Wu Wanggui moved to Peitian. Thus, he is known as the founder of the village.
The Lindera Glocke stands tall. Village ancestors planted the tree at the entrance so that their descendants may be as upright as the strong and sturdy tree. Holding classes under the tree for the younger generation is a tradition done by venerable sages for centuries and can be traced back to ancient times. More than 800 years ago, the ancestors of Peitian village moved to Fujian province from the north and settled down in the area to escape war. Peitian brought life to its descendants by cultivating not only fields, but their minds with knowledge. It is said that traditional culture in ancient China was centered in farming. All the men of Peitian village's population of 1,400 are all named after Wu. With their numerous talents, the Wu family is still flourishing after 800 years. The secret to this lies in their utmost reverence for nature, ancestors, and oracles. From the time the ancestors of the Wu family settled in Peitian village, they have known that respect for nature, their ancestors, and sages is vital for the prosperity of future generations. To imprint this important thought in younger generations, it was necessary to set rules on proper behavior and tradition. These rules were passed on not just by word of mouth, but recorded faithfully in their genealogy as standard modes of conduct for their families.
Our entire genealogy is in this box.
The Wu family's genealogy?
Oh, that's right.
This box here is really ancient.
It was made in the 32nd year of Emperor Guangxi of the Qing dynasty.
Can you open it so that I can have a look inside?
Yes, of course. I can show you.
Wow.
That's what's inside.
Is this everything?
Yes, 14 volumes in total.
14 volumes?
Yes. Actually, there used to be 40 boxes in the beginning.
The genealogy of the Wu family began in the Ming dynasty and has 3 versions. In 2004, Wu Yu-chun started a monumental project to revise the genealogy upon orders of the family. It took him 4 years to make a copy, which had 400,000 words from the version written during Emperor Guangxi's reign, combined with 800,000 words added in the last century. Wu Yu-chun reorganized and revised all 1,200,000 words purely by hand. For Wu Yu-chun and the Wu family of Peitian Village, this was done to revere and remember their ancestors. It is just as important as renovating the ancestral hall.
The genealogy was last revised in 1906, over a century ago, and we have about 4 generations in a century. Now, we have this belief that it is considered unfilial not to revise the genealogy religiously after every 3 generations. Yes.
Oh, is that so?
We believe in that, so that's why...
It was a very urgent matter?
Yes.
The said genealogy contains various family regulations and principles. The ancestors were constantly improving the whole system of family management. It holds 16 family instructions, 10 domestic disciplines, and 10 regulations.
There is a famous quote by Mencius which says that the root of the world is in the state, and the root of the state is in the family. The family is an important unit or cell. When each family holds true to good tradition, only then can the state and the world become healthy bodies. Peitian Village functions as an example of how families stay harmonious through maintaining age-old traditions. By respecting our ancestors, we can maintain sustainable development. And as a result of this, families here never do anything underhanded towards others, or anything against their ethics or the rule of law.
There are rules that govern the different relationships between siblings, lovers, and couples. There are also rules for one's speech and actions, but the most important rule of all is to respect your ancestors. Another rule which is clearly stated is to respect mulberries and cattle pus because they serve as reminders of our parents and our hometown, if not our ancestors as well. Our ancestors are the roots of our society, so every year, or even every day, we must remember to worship them. Wu Nyanmin left home at a young age to go to school. He eventually became a construction engineer. He has settled down in Xiamen and travels 260 kilometers to Peitian Village. He is in his 70s, but he goes back to Peitian by himself several times a year during the holidays. For decades, he has lived outside his village, but he believes one's hometown is an important place nurtured by one's forefathers. Wu Nyanmin's old house is the former residence of his great-great-grandfather Wu Bajun. Wu Bajun was a military graduate and a 4th-rank officer in the years of Emperor Guangxi during the rule of the Qing dynasty. He has held the highest government position of anyone in Peitian and is thus the family's pride.
He was 8th in the military exams, level C. Level A has 3 students. You have the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Level B has over 20 students, and Level C has over 100 students. He was the 8th in Level C. Yes, the 8th.
Because of his utmost respect for his ancestors, Wu Nyanmin makes sure to prioritize ancestor worship every time he comes home.
Worshipping ancestors is our tradition, one that's been preserved well in Peitian Village. All the villagers here know which generation they belong to. I belong to the 23rd generation, and Wu Bajun was in the 19th. We are several generations apart. We all know these details, and as to why I always come back to my village, I'm here to worship my ancestors because we people from Peitian value our roots.
Respect for their ancestors strongly unites the Wu family of Peitian. In the village, there are 21 ancestral halls, which have been well preserved to this day. In the most prosperous of times, there was an ancestral hall for every 5 families. For the villagers, the ancestral hall is the temple which holds the honor of their family. This is how the halls are laid out. The place of ancestral worship was linked to the family's living spaces. A building with 9 halls and 18 courtyards is the most popular type here. In this type of structure, The main hall or central room where the memorial tablets are put is the most remarkable of all spaces. It is where the family members worship their direct ancestors. The small halls along the side are where they worship their distant ancestors. In all the houses in Peitian, no matter how big or small, you will find various kinds of memorial tablets. In fact, there is even a saying that it is better to worship one's ancestors than gods. Professor Chun Chun Man of Xiamen University has been studying Peitian village for years. In his opinion, the people's utmost respect for their ancestors plays a vital role in keeping the family together.
There is an important ceremony in Peitian village known as worshipping the ancestral map. This right here is an example of an ancestral map. And on this map, we can see the names of ancestors from the 1st to the 9th generation. On the 2nd day of the new year, village scholars, or those with a bachelor's degree or higher, come back to the village to worship the map and their common ancestors. They hold grand ceremonies, kneel thrice and bow 9 times. This helps them maintain their sense of identity.
Their reverence for their ancestors has kept folk traditions within Peitian village strong for many centuries. As far as Professor Peng Lin is concerned, this reverence can even be considered the very foundation of life for its citizens.
A heart of reverence turns into a heart of fear. It is not pure senseless terror, but it is a fear of making mistakes that may humiliate their family. Therefore, with a heart full of reverence, we always discipline and remind ourselves not to commit sin, which will tarnish our ancestors' names and reputation.
That is why, to this day, visitors to Peitian village can continue to enjoy a well-preserved traditional village and a pleasant, harmonious environment kept alive by the villagers. 800 years ago, when the 3rd generation moved to this place, they found Peitian village's location to be auspicious.
I think Peitian village is in harmony with traditional geomancy. It stresses proximity to wind and water, because these two bring nourishment. Look, there are mountains in the west and the north, which keep the cold wind away, so it is relatively warm in the winter. The place is open in the south, bringing in warm wind as well as abundant rainfall. Also, there's a body of water at the entrance, water which cultivates the land, bringing in great abundance and life.
Over the past 800 years, this natural abundance has protected the small village. It is clearly mentioned in their laws that it is prohibited to destroy any natural resources around the village. The water must not be polluted, and the trees cannot be cut down. Peitian villagers believe that it is important to maintain harmony between nature and the village.
In Chinese culture, there is a principle that man is an integral part of nature. The world gave us everything, so how can we survive without the world? Where did we come from? From the dust on this earth. The world gave birth to us. That is why it's important for everyone to respect and worship the world we are living in. A person must never forget his origins.
In the heart of the villagers, to revere the world and their ancestors, it is not enough to simply fulfill their ancestors' wishes. There is another important rule that they uphold, and that is to encourage education and learning. Their ancestors believed that their descendants must study in order to bring honor to the family and to be the nation's backbone. 500 years ago, the 7th generation of the Wu family built the first school in Peitian and named it Stone Hill School. Afterwards, 18 schools were built one after another. Over 100 men passed civil examinations or became officers. The village became famous for its many gifted scholars, and even the Grand Secretary of the Qing dynasty, Qi Xiaolan, had high praises for them. As tribute to him, Peitian has created a famous dish named wanpan. At the time, Qi Xiaolan was in charge of examinations in the Tiangqiao state. That year, 15 candidates passed the examinations, 4 of them hailing from Peitian. Qi Shaolan took notice and decided to pay them a visit. When he arrived at dusk, the villagers prepared a great feast to welcome him.
He liked meat very much, and so after having enough wine, he said braised pork legs would make a good meal. It was late and they could not find braised pork legs anywhere in the village. But the cook had an idea. He had a piece of meat like this one, which he singed with hot oil and then proceeded to cook it more. He also put some spices onto the meat to flavor it, and the sumptuous smell was everywhere.
It is said that when the dish was finally brought in, its aroma filled the room. Qi Shaolan never had anything like it, so he asked for its name. The cook who made it, thinking that the meat was simmered and kept in a big basin, told him the name of the dish was one pan. An old scholar once said that only a man of great literary talent like Grand Secretary Qi deserved to eat such a delectable dish. One pan is a homophone for diploma in Chinese. The origin of the dish one pan is a legend in the village, and not just a rumor. A plaque inscribed by Qi Shaolan is still in the village as proof of the validity of this tale.
An abundance of gifts has emerged in this area near the Pohai Sea. The Wu family has been blessed with an array of talents.
Using ancient Chinese education, Peitian village has cultivated its residents' numerous talents. When a new era began, the village still had capabilities in tune with the times, because they were flexible enough to adapt to change and various trends. They changed their modes of education accordingly. In 1905, the Qing government declared it was abolishing the 1,300-year-old imperial examination system. As soon as cultural officer Wu Qiantao got the news, he went back to Peitian village to set up a new school. In 1906, Nanshan School was transformed into Peitian Secondary School. For almost 100 years, students here have learned various subjects such as Chinese, arithmetic, geography, and even English. Through this, they have broadened their horizons. Since 1920, 4 students from Peitian Secondary School have gone to France for further studies. Wu Naixing even studied with Chu Anlai. These 4 students studied in France only 40 years after the first Chinese students were sent abroad by Li Hongchang in 1872. Nanshan School, the educational institution which had taught hundreds of students in ancient China, also became a venue for cultivating modern talents and skills. This great family of scholars survives. Villagers in Peitian have valued education for centuries. As the old saying goes, a gem left unpolished can never be useful. Education is important in Peitian, and second only to worshiping the earth and their ancestors.
There is a saying for scholars like us which states, the more that we read, the more cowardly we become. Why? Because the more you read, the more you will find that the things you do not know are much greater than the things you do know. That is why great attention has been given to educating children. There is an old quote which says, in a party of 3, there must be one whom the others can learn from. And a man should always be cautious. That is a principle one should uphold. Also, a heart full of reverence is necessary.
Adherence to family rules and respect for education will ensure that descendants will always be reverent. In order to help the descendants understand the family rules, ancestors have made sure to portray them in various ways and forms.
This is Yensing Hut. It is dedicated to the 6th ancestor of the Wu family. Look here. Our ancestors left a stone book from heaven for us. It is placed right here at this spot. The family rules are set in stone. We see many tiny stones here, but 2 of them form a word. You can find 3 characters in 10 seconds. I want you to try and find the word. Go ahead, you'll see it.
Those must be the characters for man.
All right, man. This should be the character for 8.
Is this the character for enter?
Yes, it is. You got it. These 3 characters represent the underlying principles behind the ancestors' rules. It is easy to understand, you see? But how do we read it? Come closer, let's see. Look at man. See that? Look inside. There are men walking there. But if you look outside, there are men walking there too. They're very clear on that. These characters have different meaning. First, this refers to a flourishing family. Second, I want you to look at it transversely. There are men everywhere. It means that we share the same ancestors, the same origin, race, and culture. So that means everyone is equal. All right, then let's look at it vertically. There's always a man above another.
There is always a man who is above another. This is a reminder for the members of the clan to respect sages and masters. No one should be boastful under any circumstances.
There is a saying among common people that we should only do what we are capable of doing. So, no one should overestimate their capabilities or personal achievements because that leads to complacency. Complacency leads to harm, while modesty harbors benefit. The principle that says, there is always a man who is above another, enables us to maintain a modest and humble perspective and attitude in life.
These family regulations and rules flow imperceptibly in the veins of the Paitian village descendants. These rules have evolved into guiding principles for the people of Paitian village. As a chief engineer at a construction and engineering company in Shanghai, Wu Chuxing is a very busy man. But in recent years, he has been coming back to Paitian village frequently. He returns to honor the family rules, visit his parents, and escape the bustling metropolis. Wu Chuxing has been living in Shanghai for years, but he has failed to find a sense of belonging in the city. As he has gotten older, he is starting to think of moving back and living in his village. He has become more eager to contribute to his hometown, and in 2013, he started a project in Paitian.
These here are shops from ancient times, so we can revive them. This one sold tofu, this one sold soy milk, and then that one sold rice. The place will be much livelier with the shops.
This will make the village livelier?
Yes, and they will add a strong country character to the village if we revive this alley with all the stores.
Wu Chuxing and his fellow villagers have been working to keep alive the traditional culture in their beloved hometown. Today, he has called a meeting with the elders regarding ways to rebuild Nanshan School and set up a cultural lecture hall. Just like Wu Chuxing, many Paitian villagers who work outside wish to contribute to the development of their hometown. When asked why they want to help, they say it's because of the family rules that have influenced them for so long.
Whatever achievements a man has made or however successful he is, he must try his best to be kind and charitable. There's actually a plaque over there which tells one to be kind and charitable. It's most important.
The plaque encouraging people to be kind and charitable was put up in the reign of Emperor Guangxi by the Qing government as an award to gentleman Wu Changtong. Wu Changtong was a wealthy businessman who supported many public projects, such as building roads and bridges. But his biggest contribution was in the field of education. Good education has helped to keep the village's cultural heritage alive. It has also reinforced the importance of reverence. It is also remarkable that boys were not the only ones who went to school. As far back as 100 years ago, a special Longxi school was put up for girls. Wu Meishi tells us that some alumni are still alive to this day.
I would like you to meet Lu Luanfan. She lives here.
How old are you, Grandma?
What?
He's asking how old you are.
93 years old.
93.
You're 93 years old, yet you're still strong enough to be cooking for yourself.
Yes.
You're really healthy.
Lu Lanfan was married at Peitian village at the age of 17. Her husband was a descendant of Wu Changtong, the founder of Longxi School. The word Longxi means small, which is apt for the size of the institution. There is a story in the school's history about a Peitian village girl who had family problems. She encountered more problems when she got married and eventually moved back in with her parents. The village elders believed that this lack of harmony ruined the reputation not only of the girl's family, but also that of the village. Villagers believed that education and family harmony were important. Thus, Longxi School for Girls was born.
So, Grandma, when did you make this?
Well, back in my 20s.
She's 93 years old. She made this one in her 20s.
Oh.
This is the top of an apron.
Ah.
Yes, it's beautiful. And she made it here.
70 years ago, Luo Lanfan spent 3 hours every day studying at Longxi School. She took various lessons, including those about loyalty, money management, weaving, and animal farming. Traditionally, the man goes to work, while the woman is tasked with looking after the house. That is why women have a great influence on family life at home. For over a century, most of the women who married into Peitian village were educated in Longxi School. They helped their husbands in any way they could and educated their children. They played a vital role in maintaining harmony in the village. In Longxi School, there is someone who continues to teach the traditional arts and etiquette. The Lindera Glocke at the entrance to the village is now over 600 years old. When the tree was first planted in its spot, it was expected to bless the descendants of the Wu family so that they would be prosperous and mindful of their roots. Until now, the tree remains fruitful beyond expectation. The descendants of the Wu family still keep their hearts full of reverence and continue to have great respect for the world, their ancestors, and their sages.
So